So thanks for being here. There's a book club. We get to read through a book, learn from it, grow from it. And this is our fifth featured book in the series. Is Business is Personal by Bethany Frankel. And we did an introduction overview last week, and today we're going to dive into it with chapter 1. So that's just chapter 1. The title says you've got to be in it to win it. It's just re-emphasizing the fact that if you're not inside it, you cannot win it. A quick example is, I used to do a lot of practicing the stock exchange, right, on paper, because there are some softwares that also allow you to do that, where you can do some trading away from the main market just to practice your hand on. Being a data-driven person, I used to do an enormous amount of data checking and tracking the stock exchange without having money in the market. That was a waste of my time and a missed opportunity, right? I did not have the reality of the effect of the market. Even though I might have won or lost on paper, I did not get the benefit of the market itself, right? If you're not in it, you can't really win or lose. And the thing about lose is that it's not necessarily a loss altogether, because you get to understand the market more by it, right? For as long as you're not greedy, right? You're not biting more than you can chew, right? So the key thing she's trying to emphasize is the fact that you need to be in the market, right, to be able to get the full benefit of the market. That's all she's trying to emphasize in this. And and it's just like the popular saying we normally would hear, right? All right, sorry, I'm gonna put this back. It's just like the popular saying we have, right? When we talk about the fact that if you don't buy the raffle, you cannot win, right? You cannot win the raffle or the lottery if you don't buy the ticket, right? If you don't buy a lottery, all you can do is gaze on the TV. You will never win, because your name won't be there to have a number, right? Same thing with the raffle. You have to be in it to win, right? Generally, we'll talk about scoring, right? If you're not on the field, you cannot win. You can't score, right? You can only score if you're part of the game, right? Or you have a club that you're a part of. You're either part of the game directly, or you are part of the game through some proxy or the other, right? And obviously, you can harvest if you don't sow. And that's very practical for us, where we have a farm business here. Kevin and myself, right? We can only expect a harvest when we sow, right? Are you all hearing me well? Are you hearing me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, awesome. Great. And obviously the last one again, which is a repetition, you can't win if you're not in the game, and it's just talking about the fact that you need to be involved. You need to have your hands on ground. You have to get your hands in the game, get your hands dirty, not dirty from a moral standpoint, but being in the game itself, right? And generally, even though we talk about in this very aspect, what we're talking about also is in the game of life itself, right? You have to be involved in the game of life to win. Life is a game, right? We can look at life from different perspectives, right? And one of the perspectives is that we see life as a game itself, right? And unless you are involved in the game of life, you cannot win, right? You're sure to lose, because you're truly in the game. Whether you're in the game, whether you're a game intentionally or not, you are in the game. So the game affects you when it comes to life. The only question is whether you are intentional or not. And unless you're intentional, you cannot win, right? You have to be intentional to win. If you're not intentional, you truly cannot win. You can only lose, right? Because the game of life is done in such a way that the only way you're going to win is that you are intentional about it. right? Because it's not just a game, it's also a warfare, right? There are different elements of life that one does not want you to win. And unless you put in a concerted effort to win, you most probably will not, right? Just to move on that, just looking at other things here, we have that famous quote by Plato, which says that the beginning is the most important part of the work, right? And we can look at the beginning from different aspects here in terms of life, right? The beginning is the fact that you came into this life, you were born into this life. Typically would say that there are two things we don't determine. We don't determine when we get born. We don't determine when we die, but we determine the in-between. God did not give us the opportunity to decide when we get born, nor when we die, unless we commit suicide, obviously. But it gives us everything to decide in between life, being born and dying, right? That is where you can win. You don't win at birth. You don't necessarily win at death. You win in the in-between of life, right? And so typically would say things like, taking the leap of life, then find your way on the way down, because if you're looking for perfect conditions, there's probably never going to be a perfect condition to live. It's just going to be you making the best of what you have every day, every second, and doing something. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be that you're doing something with the information you have, the best information you have at every point in time. You don't have to have all the information to get involved in life, right? If you want to wait for a perfect plan, it never occurs. There's no perfect plan anywhere, because every plan you make will change. It will change when you get into the real circumstance of the event that you are planned for, right? Irrespective of what you plan for today, yesterday, it will never be perfect, because the conditions, there are a lot of things that will happen that you never envisaged in that plan. So it's good to plan, but you don't need a perfect plan. You just need to have a plan and be willing and ready to make changes as reality hits you, right? And so a perfect business plan does not exist, right? And if you read books like From Good to Great, Built to Last, and you have Jim Collins and his partner doing a lot of study of businesses. And they tell you that the businesses that make it and become great is not because they have a perfect plan. They just had the culture, and they were willing to respond to changes, as they go along. That's what makes them great, right? And obviously, you have to be in it to win, and you just have to do it.